Today's presentation is all about giving you the skills necessary to transition into this virtual world and work with virtual assistants effectively. So if you're here, you're either already a client or you're considering hiring a virtual assistant. And if you are considering hiring a virtual assistant, today is going to be a really good place for you to basically get everything that we've learned over 13 years and get a shortcut. Like 6,000 clients, 13 years of doing this. We've screwed everything up as a business, and we've helped our clients, through every imaginable scenario. And so I just want to make sure that you're in the right spot, but this is going to be fully focused on your success with virtual assistants and how to work with them effectively. All right. Hey guys, thanks so much for being here. At the end, we'll talk about this. At the end, I'm going to give away a copy of our book. So everybody who's attending, it's a free gift. I want to make sure you have it. And all of these things are packaged very neatly, very nicely into one chapter within the book, where you can kind of suck out all the value and have kind of a reference guide in addition to this webinar today. So again, thanks for being here. The very first thing that I want everybody in this call to realize is the world has shifted. And it's kind of nuts. It's really, really, really crazy what's happening today. And Amazon Prime members, 82% of US households are Amazon Prime members. And only 77% decorate a tree, 68% own a pet, $50,000 plus household income, only 60%. So when you think about the stats here, the world has just massively shifted, and this webinar is about preparing you for that shift. And the business landscape is even more challenging. Here in this slide, and this is kind of nuts, under $1 million in revenue, 96% of all businesses fall under $1 million in revenue. So, and here's what's even more crazy. Most of these businesses under $1 million, 60% of them report to the IRS that they made no money, zero money. And so when you think about how hard it is to grow and scale a business, the challenges are real. Man, we're living in COVID times. Everybody's moving and transitioning to digital world. And at the same time, business is harder than ever to win and succeed. So, I don't know if you're like me, but like you, there are times when I feel like this hamster on a wheel. And, the reality is growing and scaling a business is just difficult. It's hard. It's one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And, it's not for the faint of heart. So, and it doesn't fall on me that this is the position that you guys find yourselves in. This is me literally 2009 on my honeymoon in the middle of the night, literally working. So this photo came about and you can kind of see in my face, I'm angry, right? I'm literally in the bar on my honeymoon in Guatemala. There's monkeys and there's trees and everybody's swinging around and it's just an amazing spot. And I find myself on my honeymoon working at 1 a.m. The bartender in Guatemala spoke only Spanish, but he took my cell phone from me, snapped this photo, and then began to make fun of me. Stupid gringo, beautiful bride back in the room. What is wrong with him? Why is he working? These damn Americans, they're crazy. The reality is that this is what it is to be an entrepreneur. This is what it is to work hard and grow and scale a business. The thing though is when I was doing this back in 2009, I was only 2 years into growing and scaling a business. I was only a couple years into using virtual assistants. And so what's happened now is, I had a break in that moment. I felt like if I wanted to have a family, if I wanted to stay married, if I wanted to grow and scale a business, I had to change everything about how I was delegating and how I was leading and what I was doing inside of our business. So today we're going to share those with you. Again, if you stick around to the end, we're going to give away this book. And literally, I put my heart and soul into this thing. Every mistake that I've made, every mistake that I've helped a client correct, all of the failures of leadership and also the success stories of how to do it right are in this book. And so If you stay, free gift to you. You can buy it on Amazon. I think it's $15, but we're going to go ahead and give an electronic version. Very easy to get to. And it has all of this stuff that we're going to cover today in that book. If you're here because these are the topics that were interesting to you. How to integrate a virtual assistant into an existing teams. We're going to talk about communication tips, frequency, the tools that you need, the meetings, how to run those, what it's like. Then we're going to go through training methodology. We have some frameworks that we're going to give away. Alvin is here in this, and Alvin is going to set not only blog links inside of the comments, but we're also going to give you kind of like checklists or frameworks to follow. So each one of these things, we have a blog post or a document that you can download or some way to go, that's interesting and I want it for my business. So we'll add those into the links. Cultural differences, virtual versus physical. This is one of my favorite topics. We've been a fully remote team for 13 years, literally 13 years. We have 1,200 virtual assistants. They all work remotely, meaning they work from their home, and we've done it for a really, really long time. So we've got some really good tips here. We'll talk about some of the disadvantages and advantages of running a global team. And then we're going to share with you common mistakes to avoid. So tasks, project management, time management, all of the things that so you can have success. The first thing I want you to know is outsourcing is normal. Wildly enough, a company like Kellogg, and I don't know if you guys are like me, I've got 2 little girls at home, I've got another kid on the way, and we eat a lot of cereal for breakfast. But here's what's wild about Kellogg. Kellogg is the biggest market that they serve is the US, and yet 80% of their employees are actually overseas. So 80% of their employees aren't in their largest market. The biggest market where they sell, their majority of their employees are not here. And so all we're doing today is talking with you and about how to do this and how to do it right, because these major Fortune 500 companies have been doing it since the 70s and 80s for a very, very, very long time. And so what we've done as a company is we've allowed small and medium-sized businesses to come in, get the power of leverage, but pay 1/3 to 1/4 of the cost. So that's all we do is we help companies, medium, small businesses in the US and in Canada find leverage, but at 1/3 to 1/4 of the cost. So I really appreciate you guys for being here. We're going to talk about how to integrate a virtual assistant in the team. Couple things. Daily huddles. In the first 90 days, my suggestion is to every day meet with a new employee on your team. Even if it's a check-in, like further down the road, let's say it's their 100th day or their 160th day, first 6 months, every day you're saying, hi, how are you? You got your tasks ready for the day? Do you need any support? Do you need anything? But in that first 30 days, the suggestion is take an hour out of your day, plan it, block it, put it into your calendar, and do a Zoom video just like this, where you're interacting and you're talking and you're working with your virtual assistant to be successful that day. What enables that is the next point, which is this start of day and end of day reports. Now, a start of day report, you come in and you say, hey, these are the 5 things I'm going to do for the day, and these are the 2 things I need support on. So this is something that we train our virtual assistants to do, is come through and actually say, hey, these are the 5 things I'm going to do, and I need or have questions on these 2 items, and then they post that in either your group chat or your task management or maybe an email or your company system, your communication system of some sort. So start of day, and then at the end of their day, you say, look, I accomplished these 14 or 15 things throughout the day. These 5 are still pending, and I'm going to move them to my start of day report for the next day. So this is a great way for our clients and our virtual assistants to stay on top of what's getting done every single day within their business, and then what is still being held over to the next day. The other thing is goals, resources, and learnings for the week. Every Monday, this is a wild thing. We have 1,200 people. in the company. And every Monday, I meet with my team, the people who directly report to me, and we set goals together, and we talk about resources or anything that they need to learn or anything that they need in terms of a company. One thing that is different, and this is more of a leadership conversation than really a specific virtual assistant. When you give a task to somebody, it's really important that you check in with them and that you ask the question, do you need any support or resources before you can go and do that task? And this is a big deal. So our intention in sharing this particular bullet point is your virtual assistant is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. You should start with goals. Ask them if they need any resources or they need any connecting with anybody in the company or any additional learnings or anything that they need to actually hit their goal for the week. The other thing is weekly and monthly check-ins. Here's the formula. I start every single conversation, whether it's a client, an employee, a peer. How could we make our time together amazing for you? And I would suggest you guys adopt that with your virtual assistant and with your physical team. But every week we have a check-in where the very first things out of my literally out of my mouth, and I had one today with Steve, one of our consultants here at MyOutDesk. I said, hey, Steve, let's go through everything that you need. What are the things on your list that you need support on? And then we're doing a check-in based on his needs. And my job is to just support him being successful at the company. So we do that on a weekly and a monthly basis. And a monthly, I like all hands check-ins where everybody in the team is there. And on a weekly, I like the one-on-ones where you're helping your people, succeed. Integrating a virtual assistant into an existing teams. I personally love Agile I love Agile project management. That is a system. It's a well-known project management. Whenever you have multiple people contributing to a single project, setting out timelines, fully describing it, knowing who is a contributor versus who owns it and who is being informed. And these are all things, if you just type Agile project management, software comes up. There's an Excel spreadsheet because we have a blog post on it and an Excel spreadsheet. So you could take that project management, just an Excel spreadsheet, and then do an if, who, when, what, and by when statement. And that's what Agile project management does. It just clearly defines all the different stakeholders within a project so that they know what their timeline is and what their expected deliverable is. Now, this is Agile project management is for when you're managing a complex multi-person project. And this is something that our virtual assistants help their clients with all day long. If you don't want to use that methodology because it is complicated and it's for complex projects, then there are a lot of tools like Monday, Asana, Trello, Slack, and I'll give you some examples. We're sharing, this is internal to MyOutDesk. I'm sharing some of our task management platforms. This is Basecamp and this is Monday. We use Monday for our marketing team and we use Basecamp for our internal IT team. So any development that we're doing for our clients, any processes that we're doing inside of our developer team. So what I love about Monday and Basecamp is it clearly defines the project, plus it gives details, plus it allows collaboration. Those are the main points when you're thinking about a project management or a task management platform. The other thing, and this is a bonus, by the way, this is just 100% bonus. I really love 1Password. If you're using virtual team members, whether they're virtual assistants or people who are working from home now that COVID is kind of hit, and there's collaboration, I mean, my whole world is in 1Password. I'm not going to give you guys my password, so don't ask, but you could basically, all of our companies, all of my personal investments, and you can kind of see this, mod marketing. The marketing team has 137 items inside of this as a password management. If we add somebody to the team, or subtract somebody from the team, I don't have to go through all of our marketing platforms and change the password 173 times. I have one spot, 1Password, one spot to go in and remove a person or add a person. It makes for a very, very streamlined kind of adoption in or an extraction out of a particular company. So, I have one that my bookkeepers have. We have one that our IT team has. We have one for different, functional teams within the business and different companies. So this is a great tool to fully digitize your experience of onboarding a virtual assistant. Time management. Now, you don't have to use ours. And if you're not a client, no big deal, but you definitely ought to have some sort of productivity tracking platform. And this is what My Time is. My Time in is for MyOutDesk. All of our virtual assistants log into our system, and in that system, we can track, did they show up on time? Are they working? What's their internet speed? What systems are they in? Are they on Facebook all day long, or are they actually in the CRM doing the work? Or are they on the phones most of the day if they're actually supposed to be answering phones or calling people? Our system, our productivity platform, basically tells us if a virtual assistant is working. And that's really important when you have a fully remote or fully dispersed team. The other thing is that we have MyOutDesk, the client portal, which is a place basically for our clients, and this is an example of it, to get not only the content that we have, copies of the books, but they can change their credit card. They have access, and you can kind of see it right here, to the productivity tracker. They can update billing. This is a place for our clients to manage the virtual assistant scenario, like who's on the team and what they're doing and when they show up. And this is a really big deal if you're having a virtual assistant. We like full transparency at this business. And when you're working remotely, this is probably one of the biggest upgrades. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Okay. So integrating a virtual assistant into an existing team. I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation where somebody hires a virtual assistant, but then they don't want to fully integrate them into their communication platform. They kind of want to keep them separate from the business. And this is a really scary concept. I really want you to give your virtual assistant a phone number, a company phone number, a company email, company access to the chat platform. We use something called Glip. There's Slack. There's GChat. There's a ton of instant messaging platforms. Facebook has Workforce. I mean, there's a bazillion of them, and I don't really care which one you use, but you should use them, and your virtual assistant should be treated like any other team member. Just like if you onboarded a licensed salesperson, or if you onboarded a marketing team or a controller or a bookkeeper, you'd want to integrate your virtual assistant into your company systems. And here are if you're interested in what the basics are, a local phone number is a big deal. On your behalf, an example is the other day, it's my wife's birthday. I wanted to go somewhere. I had my virtual assistant call the restaurant that we wanted to go to and then rent a limo because it was a big deal. It was, she was turning 35. It was a big deal. And so they need a local phone number to call people on your behalf. And they also need text. So you want to give them the functionality to send a text, not only to the rest of your team members, but maybe to clients or vendors or people in your world. So it's real important to have a local phone number with the text capacity. I love giving them company email and company chat. And this last one is super, super important. You've got to do video training. So many platforms out there exist to do. Camtasia is an example of a great video platform. Loom is another example of a training video platform. Zoom, Google has their own now. It's Google Meet or something. But you can record your screen and you could record yourself doing training, and then once you've created it, it's created and it's done. Plus, there's something about text or phone communication that just isn't as good as face-to-face. So I definitely want to encourage you guys to get video platform, Zoom, Skype, something so you can do a face-to-face conversation. Okay, so things to avoid. These are common mistakes. And when I say common, I literally have seen these hundreds, if not thousands of times. A client onboarding a virtual assistant and then not having enough time to meet with them and understand the operation. One of the things we'll talk about is share with them your mission, your vision, the whole reason your company exists, your origin story. You guys heard about my origin story. I'm literally on my honeymoon working, like that hamster that was running in the wheel, on my honeymoon working. That's the origin story. In that moment, I knew I wanted to stay married. I wanted to have a family one day. I wanted to have a business that I owned and not have a business that owned me. You've got to convey those learnings and all of the mistakes that you've made and your origin story, your values, your vision. This is a big deal for your virtual assistant, because once they embrace your company's core values and your mission and all the good stuff about your company, they'll adopt it. They'll start being like a soldier in the trenches, fighting with you and fighting to obtain your goals. So this is a big deal. Spend time. And you know what? When I was new to working virtual assistants and I didn't have a lot of time to onboard every single person in my team, I would call them in between meetings, or I would be driving and I'd be calling them and just check in with them. So devote the time, especially in the first 90 days, so they can learn about the company, learn about you, learn about what's happening in your world, and then support you in your dreams and goals. Okay, not the next one, not assigning a specific POC. Oh my goodness. You know, a leader comes in, hires a virtual assistant for the sales team or for the ops team or the admin team, and then the leader disappears or the manager disappears and doesn't really give somebody. I like to assign our virtual assistants a company point of contact, like who's managing this virtual assistant, and then I like to give them a buddy, somebody in the company that isn't their direct boss that they can ping questions to. Now, it's better if that person can be someone who has a similar or same job or did that job before. So now, not only are they talking to subject matter experts, but they're talking to somebody who's not their boss. So a company buddy and a point of contact for the virtual assistant. Super important to develop those habits in the first 90 days. Expecting a VA to be plug and play. I swear to you, if we could tell our clients that the virtual assistant knows everything and just going to come in and do the work, we would have a bazillion clients, because that's what every entrepreneur wants, is they want somebody else to handle it and then not think about it. That solution doesn't exist. There's no way for me as a person or our company to come in and just know everything about your company. You've been living in that company for 5, 10, sometimes 20, 30 years. So you have to realize that there's no such thing as a plug and play solution, especially not our people. Our people cost $430 a week, around $22,000 a year. So we're about a third to a quarter of the cost of a full-time, normal US employee on average. But they're not plug and play. They need to be given direction. We're going to go over that in just a second. The other thing is, we've had companies onboard virtual assistants and not get that virtual assistant into the company culture. And I cannot believe this, one of my best friends actually made this mistake. And the other day he texted me, he's like, hey, should I be adding my virtual assistant to our dream meetings? And I was like, yes, what do you mean you haven't been? And he's been a customer for 3 or 4 years. And his company, one of their big cultures is helping their employees develop their dreams and then go after their dreams. And there are these huge company-wide dream sessions, and he wasn't including his 8 virtual assistants into those dream meetings. And so the biggest deal that you can do is onboard a virtual assistant into the culture and let them have all of the benefits of being an employee at your company. Once you do that, they're going to thrive and really drive the success at your company. The other thing is, get them into the team meetings. It's weird, but this is a big deal, because as you're running a team meeting, you're probably used to having it in a conference room and having physical people there. So you have to do little things. And I'm going to raise up and I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm hoping you can, but this is a Jabra speaker. So literally when we do meetings now, we have a laptop set up on the conference room. We stream it from a Google Cast, we cast it over to the computer that's on the wall. And then we set up the laptop to have a Jabra portable pod speaker. And I don't know the model number of this thing, but I want to make sure you guys have it because it's such a big deal here. It's a Jabra, I want to say 410. So it's an external puck so that your virtual assistant can, through the camera on your computer, see the entire team, through the puck, the Jabra puck, hear the conversation, and then you guys can see the virtual assistant up on a computer or on the TV screen. Big opportunity for people to integrate their virtual assistant into the company team meeting, whether it's a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting, and it's not really super hard. I think the Jabra is a couple $100. Now, if you're listening to this, this is going to blow your mind, but this is literally the rule, scientifically proven. This is how much time it takes somebody to learn a task. Forget about virtual assistants. This is for anybody. So and this is called the 30x rule. You can Google it. It's out there. It's in academia. This is the rule on how long it takes to train somebody to do the job. And here is the thing. I screwed this up. This is why, this one thing, if you get nothing from today, this is why I was working on my honeymoon, because I screwed this up. I didn't train well, and I didn't have SOPs, which we're going to go over, and I didn't do play, pause, do, and I didn't set clear expectations, and I didn't document what that time frame for a thing was, and so here I am working on my honeymoon. So the 30x rule says this: if you spend 5 minutes doing a task a day, you need to multiply that by 30. That's 150 minutes of training to invest in someone else before they can do the work for you. Now, what that means, though, is over time, once you've trained them, once you've spent the 150 minutes of training to do the 5-minute task, over time, you actually have a 733% return on time invested. The challenge is getting somebody to actually do that first 150 minutes of training. And that's an easy bandwidth in terms of a way for you to calculate. If it takes you an hour, literally, you multiply that by 30, you're going to spend 30 hours training that person before you can hand it off. Clear expectations and leadership. We talked a little bit about this. When you hire a virtual assistant through us, we ask for who the direct manager is, we get a job description, and we create something called an outcome statement. Big deal. Outcome statements help people understand what they're buying from hiring a virtual assistant, and what's the one thing that virtual assistant, if they do it over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months and for the rest of my career, I'm willing to buy it. Most of our customers say they want to buy some of their time back because they're working on their honeymoon like me. Sometimes we have customers say, hey, I want to grow revenue. That's a really big deal. I need more prospecting or more client interaction or more marketing, so generating more leads. The other thing that people say is I want to reduce the cost. I used to have an in-house person do my accounting. I'm going to hire a virtual assistant. They're going to do my accounting, freeing my in-house person to help me grow the revenue of the company. So just know outcomes are a big deal, and just make sure you focus on the training part. This slide is called Save Time and Train Well. So we call it play, pause, do. So here's the upgrade for everybody. And again, this one's a big deal. I'll record my screen doing the work that I want done. Meaning, so the other day, we have a great person on our team. Her name is Elle. She sets all of our PR appointments. So if I'm on TV, or if I'm on a podcast, or if we're guest blogging on like somebody else's blog, she's the one who sets those things up. And I got to a point where I was getting most of the information for the meetings, but I didn't get it all. Meaning, I always had questions, or I had to go somewhere and find out a little bit more. There was one particular podcast I was on. I wanted to know who the audience was and why I was going to that podcast. So literally, I turned on Zoom, I pulled up the system that we use for our PR, and then I started talking about the how, what, and why of updating our process for booking a PR appointment on my calendar. And literally, I went through the whole process of just saying, hey, look, I want to know their domain authority. I want to know if we reached out or they reached out. I want to know the goals of the meeting. I want to get their LinkedIn profile. And so now every single time that a PR appointment lands on my calendar, I have a format and a framework that I can work off of. And that video took me all of 5 or 10 minutes. Gave it to the virtual assistant. She then typed up the instructions, sent me the instructions. I reviewed the instructions, made a couple changes, sent it back to her. Now we have standard operating procedures along with a video explaining how I want it done and why I want it done. And now every single time for the rest of my career, I'm getting our meetings booked in a particular way. That's an example of play, pause, do. What I love about doing the video, documenting the work, is the virtual assistant watches the video, writes it down, and just that one thing raises their level of understanding of why that task is being done. And then you could have a finalized meeting where you meet, you talk it through. The more complex the task is, obviously the larger. The more time frame it takes to do the task, maybe the larger the SOP is. But you do this with small things, large things, whatever. Before you know it, everything inside your business is documented. How you want things done, how you want to serve the clients, what's important about one particular thing or another. Like all of a sudden your team members start understanding the business in the same way that you understand the business. And what happens in that point is you begin to scale your business. This is what makes a business sellable. This is what makes a business cross the $1 million mark, is when you can hire, leverage, and they can do the work for you. Just this one thing makes a business worth being sold. This is huge. Oh my goodness. I've made so many mistakes here. I used to give somebody a task verbally. In fact, and sometimes I still find myself in that space where I'll verbally explain. Here's the thing though, 67% of written communication is misunderstood. 37% of verbal communication is misunderstood. And even when you write it down and you give it to somebody and you're doing a face-to-face, sometimes more than 50% of the communication that you had with them is misunderstood. So when you implement a task management platform and you write things down and you do a video face-to-face conference, the likelihood that your virtual assistant or your employer or anybody really, maybe even your spouse, understands the task fully goes way, way, way up. But this step ensures that the task is understood. So what we do here and what I've done now, now that I've learned, see, I only learn lessons if it hurts my heart or it hurts my wallet. You're probably just like me. I got to lose money or feel really horrible or feel bad or miss something. But what I would do, communicate the task in a written format, set in the project management, the task management, software. So there's a time frame, it's articulated, they understand the what, the why. And then as the virtual assistant is 1 or 2 hours into doing that 10-hour task, come back and check in with them. Have them do a presentation about their understanding about what you're actually asking for, what their part in the job is, and what that task looks like. Once they do the presentation, once they tell you that they understand the task, then you're checking in with them and making sure that there might be areas that you could help them streamline it. There might be areas of understanding that they don't know. You might have to assign new resources to that particular task or subtract resources when you realize, oh, my virtual assistant has it. But the point is, in that check-in, when it's 10 to 20% of the way done, you have the opportunity to assess understanding, make sure they're on the right track, and not waste time or money. And this one step, if you implement into the training of a virtual assistant, will help you save, or any employee, will help you save lots of time and money. Okay, so common mistakes to avoid. Not discussing how and why. One mistake is I'll ask somebody to do something and they go do it, but they don't understand the why or how to do it. And the mistake there is when somebody understands why it's important or what it will impact or what's going on, their likelihood to complete that task is much, 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 much higher. So I just want to be clear, discuss the why, discuss the how. Make sure that's in your written instruction. Penalizing the VA when there is no conversation, direction, or documentation. I'm just gonna be real with everybody on this call. Usually when there's a mistake, it's because I didn't communicate the conversation well enough, or I didn't give the directions, or I wasn't part of the solution, or there's some mistake that I made. The other day I assigned a task, it didn't turn out the way I wanted, so I've trained myself now to look at how I communicated the task and verified the directions and documentation, and the conversation was clear enough. But sure enough, missed a deadline, had a mistake happen, and it was my failure because I'm really, really busy. Your virtual assistants will have the one job that you've given them. Your employees have that one thing that they're doing. As entrepreneurs or leaders or CEOs or C-suites, whatever you are, we have 100 different things moving at all times. And so typically when there's a mistake, it's ours. And if it's not documented, and if you've gone through the process, then maybe it's a coaching opportunity for the virtual assistant. The other piece is everybody takes 3 to 6 months to learn the job. We have this great salesperson. In fact, he is crushing it right now, but he struggled for the first 5 months. We didn't penalize him. We didn't, make him feel bad. We just kept supporting him, knowing that we chose wisely and that he loves our core values. He's on for the mission. He's a great salesperson, but this business is hard. And so some people get it in the first 30, 60 days. Some people take 4 or 5 months. Just realize that everybody has a different time frame to learn the role. But once you get somebody up to speed and their core values and a mission match, and they really know the job, that's going to give you what we call compound leverage, which basically, it means once you've given a job away, you never have to get that job back. That job is somebody else's for the rest of your career, and that means you get all that time back for the rest of your career, and that's what we want to help you create scale and grow your business. Cultural differences. This is one of my favorite topics. There are so many distractions in an office. There are so many interruptions, colleagues, office politics, stress, of commuting, a lot of waste when it comes to physical office versus virtual office. But before COVID, only 4% of the US worked remotely. Now that COVID's hit, more than 60% of the world is working remotely. There's some good things and there's some bad things here. There is a process to effectively manage a remote team. Everything that we've been talking about today is remote focused, but here's the big one. This is what I find. People prefer in-house assistants or employees who are in the office because they have what we call tribal knowledge, meaning their business is locked in their brain. The business is all right here in the frontal lobe of their brain. And in order to get it out, it's a lot easier just to tell somebody when you're face to face. But when you're managing remote teams, you're required to document it. You're required to pull that tribal knowledge out of your employees, out of your partners, out of yourself. And that process really, really creates scale. Again, it helps you sell your business. It helps you document it. And my favorite line is, my employees get to serve our clients. You guys, hopefully some of you guys are here, our clients, but they get to serve our clients exactly the way I want them served. And that is a huge deal. And so when you're considering creating a global team, just know there's a bigger win in it than just saving a third of the cost of an employee, hiring a virtual assistant. The other win is it will force you to document everything, which effectively will cause your business to grow and scale and it be worth something someday so that you can sell it and leave the industry. The other thing is remote culture. One thing it creates, having a remote culture means that you have to create events and think outside of the box to get your team together, whether it's Zoom meetings, having dress up parties, running contests, having little events that aren't physical is a new way of thinking. And so one of the things that we want to make sure you're aware of when you're hiring a virtual assistant is that you'll want to create some company team events. a great example, this is some swag. It's a bottle, little water bottle. Sending that out to your virtual assistants, giving them a company shirt, giving them, a company book, making sure they're integrated into the culture of your business is probably one of the biggest upgrades we've helped our clients with. And so these two things, there are blog posts about it, but we have all of our stuff available for you guys. Common mistakes to avoid. Talking through observable behaviors and habits. Think about managing employees the same way you love on kids. It's a very simple way. When you're working with your virtual assistant, what you want to remember is if there's a mistake, they don't want to make a mistake. They want to make you happy. And so usually there's just not enough of communication around it. So, hey, this mistake was had. We're going to give you guys a process to a system of questions. It's actually the next slide to make sure you're walking through the right process when there is a mistake. The other thing, the PH culture, Philippines, we're talking about virtual assistants in the Philippines. That's our business. They're heavy on belonging and being part of your team. So I want to be clear, one of the biggest upgrades, and here's the difference, right? In the US, the CEO or the entrepreneur or the C-level person, even the employee, they want to be the one that is responsible for the success. I did it. I brought this value. I'm the person. In the Philippines, it's more about the family unit. The people who are on the team are being held together. So you have to integrate the I did it, yes, I'm in the US culture with the Filipino culture of belonging. So anything you can do to help them feel like they belong and they are part of the team, you're going to see big dividends from that. US slang. Oh my goodness. I'm so lucky to be 13 years into working with our virtual assistants because they know all of my crazy things. They know, the silliness. They know when I'm not happy, when I'm upset, when I'm really happy. They know, they've learned over time. Just realize that there is not only a cultural difference, but there's also a language difference. Our virtual assistants speak perfect English, so don't worry about that. That they learn English from kindergarten on. Right? It's the main language there. When I'm driving on the streets, the signs are in English. That's not the issue. But there are little differences between what you say and what they say, and you just have to learn how they communicate. The other thing is virtual high fives, virtual hugs, virtual attaboys go a really long way when you're working with somebody virtually, or when you're working with somebody who is a virtual assistant in the Philippines. So guys, this is the common question. I want to leave you with this, and then we're going to give away the book. But here's the system when there is a mistake or something happens. These are the 3 questions to ask. Virtual assistant or employee or leader or anybody or spouse or best friend, whoever makes a mistake in your business. Do I have a system and a process in place? That means, do I have an SOP? Do I have a video training? Is there something in writing or visual or both, ideally both, that they have access to? Yes or no? Okay, yes. Okay, great. Now you can go to the next question. Was there an effective training provided for those systems and processes? Remember the 30X rule. Did I spend the time required to make sure that only did I document the system and process, and we have a video on it, but I spent time with them, training them in the appropriate amount of time? After you ask yourself question number 1 and question number 2, you have the right to ask yourself, do I have the right person, and is this person talented? Now, if you said yes to 1 and 2, then it becomes a very different conversation with your leverage or with your employee or with your leadership or whoever it is. Then you can start saying, well, hey, we have the training, you've gone through the training, you made this mistake, what's going on? What would you like to do differently? It changes the dynamic of the conversation. So this is just a simple framework for people to follow when they're rocking and rolling. I love that we're at the end of this time together. Real quick, pull out your cell phones, and I'm going to give you a copy of our book. It's a best-selling book. Wildly enough, it's internationally best-selling. It sold, Japan was the second largest market besides the US that it became a bestseller, which is crazy to me, but it is what it is. All you need to do to get a copy of the book is text SVP, so Sam, Victor, Paul, Scale with Virtual Professionals, SVP to 31996, and you'll get either a Kindle or a PDF version of your book. What I love about it is there's an entire section here about the things that we do. We help businesses get administrative help, marketing help, prospecting help, and then customer service and support help. Those are the 4 areas that we serve our clients here at MyOutDesk. And the book has guides not only for how to train, but it also has how to have virtual success, everything that we've talked about today. Plus it has how to launch a virtual assistant. Plus it has those 4 required. So in those 4 areas, there are required frameworks. There's a required things for a business to have. There's the required systems and processes. And we outline those in the book. So if you're building a sales team, like a prospecting team, if you're building a marketing team, all of the methodologies that we used are in this book, and you can have a copy of it and go through it. It's a really easy read. It's only 130 pages. I'll give you the number and the code one more time. The number to text is 31996, 31996, and then the message in the text message is S as in Sam, V as in Victor, and P as in Paul. If you're not with your cell phone right now, you can actually grab a copy on our website. It's myoutdesk.com/scale. So I am going to stay and answer questions. We've stopped the video. So any questions, thoughts, needs, I'd love to answer them in the text. If you want to stick around, I'm here to serve you guys, help you guys grow and scale with virtual professionals. Okay, great. Somebody asked what the cost of a virtual assistant is. It's $430 a week. Think about around $430 a week, or $22,000 a year for a full-time employee. Now, those costs include healthcare, vacation, access to our technology, access to all of our methodology. When you come in and do a consultation with us, we take you through all of these things. We help you build an outcome. We make sure you have everything you need to be successful. We walk through all of the tips and tricks that we talked about and make sure you're super successful. And then we allow you to interview people that we have pre-screened. We do an FBI grade background check. We're checking their references. We're a legal entity in the Philippines, and you have access to all of our technology and all of our stuff. John asked what the success rate, man, what a great question. Here's the reality. What we teach people, all of the things that we're on this, how to effectively work with a virtual assistant, these are how to effectively build business. So if a virtual assistant doesn't work out, we will change them up. But most of the time, our clients are successful. Most of the time, the virtual assistant that they hire really helps them grow and scale. And we're a partner in the conversation. Upwork and Odesk and Fiverr, think of them as dating sites, places where you go and you get a little project done or a little thing done, like you need a slide deck or something changed in your business. We're a marriage site. If you need talent today inside of your business, then we'd love to have a consultation. We'll take you through a process. You may, at the end of that process, say, you know what, I'll take my free book and I'll go. But you might also decide to move forward and hire a virtual assistant. We do have a bunch of programs for Keller Williams, but we're in all industries: real estate, mortgage, insurance, healthcare, cannabis. We're the #1 cannabis virtual assistant company in the world. Imagine that, right? So we serve a lot of different businesses, not just any one particular industry or any one particular. Are these assistants in the U.S.? No, they are not in the U.S. They're 100% in the Philippines. We have 1,200 people over there who every day help their business, their clients' businesses scale and grow, and they save our clients time. It's paid every 2 weeks. We are a staffing company, and we have multiple levels of commitments. We have a 90-day, a 3-month commitment, a 6-month commitment, and a 12-month. Obviously, our 3-month commitment is the most flexible, and our 12-month commitment is the best price. So if you're thinking about hiring a virtual assistant, we have multiple options in terms of time frames and cost, and we'd be happy to talk to you. Do you have real estate sales virtual? We have a ton of prospecting virtual assistants, a ton of people who are on the phone. In fact, over the last 13 years, probably about 3,000 of our virtual assistants are on the phone. Do the VAs stay long-term, or is there a chance they will move on? Great question. John Knox had asked that question. We give our virtual assistants healthcare. We pay them 3 times the normal salary. We actually give them vacation time due to conferences. In fact, we're about to launch a virtual conference for our VAs next month. We give them so much benefits. We give them a coach within the company. We give you a customer service person within the company. We have a consultant that goes through the process, all with the intention of keeping our virtual assistants long-term. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. Turnover is the enemy of scale. The longer you can keep your employees, keep them happy, and grow your headcount employees. By the way, that's the one differentiator. When you look at different businesses, the larger companies, they keep their people long-term. They lock them in because of good benefits and good pay. And they end up doing better than companies that churn. So I hope that helps. What if you don't need a full-time assistant? Jay, what a great question. Many of our clients will buddy up, meaning they'll find another entrepreneur who also needs leverage, or they'll find somebody in their area that is a successful business who needs a similar style or virtual assistant. And so we have a lot of our clients who are splitting a person and kind of doing that. So I hope that's helpful, guys. We're going to end right now. I really appreciate you. Again, grab a copy of the book, go to the website, sign up for a consultation. Our main core value is to have a servant's heart. That's why we shared today everything that we did. This will be on YouTube. This will be on our main website, along with everything that we've talked about. Every single step, every single slide, there's a blog post, there's a downloadable document, there's some piece of content that will help you succeed, grow, and scale your business with virtual professionals. My name is Daniel Ramsey. I appreciate your time today, and thanks for coming. Appreciate all of you guys.